Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review the latest Spike Lee joint, Highest to Lowest, coming to you from Apple TV Plus and from A24. And like I said, this is directed by Spike Lee, based on the novel King's Ransom by Evan Hunter as Ed McBain, and based off of High and Low, the Akira Kurosawa film, as this does focus on a titan of music mogul is targeted with a ransom plot. He is jammed up in a life or death moral dilemma. And this film, it certainly plays around with the narrative and the story of High and Low. But what I'm so impressed by is what Spike Lee is able to do to take this story, modernize it, put it in a different context, reinvent it, and invest so much into the packaging around it and keeping secure that narrative that Kurosawa made famous in High and Low. Now, I feel like the first act of the film, there's certainly some clunky elements. Some of the music feels a little melodramatic and kind of takes you out of the film a little bit. Some of the dialogue is a bit stiff. But as this film starts to ease into itself, the narrative elements feel a little safe. As the film progresses and how it gets to where it needs to be in the end, the narrative feels a little safe, especially compared to High and Low. But the thematic work is impressive. You have this mogul who's willing to bet it all on himself. You have his dynamic with his friend and driver, who their two sons are best friends, and when it happens that they accidentally kidnapped his friend's son, there's this big moral dilemma. It's like, do I give up the $17.5 million I'd be willing to give up for my son, which will torpedo my deal? Or like, do I owe my friend $17.5 million to save his child from this horrible situation? And it builds on that as there's the specific conflict between the antagonist and Denzel Washington's David King, our protagonist, is so deeply rooted in your environment, where you come from, deeply rooted in music and taking a chance, as you have David King, who's this music mogul who has the perfect ear to be able to hear, but, has lost control of his company after a sale, and he's desperately trying to buy it back and bringing that life back to the music and what he was passionate about in the first place, and finding artists that deserve that spotlight. And this film navigates those themes in conflict with the antagonist so expertly well that it's rich and thematic and interesting to think about and process. Like the crime, like the kidnapping and stuff like that, still obviously is important to how this film progresses, but it feels less of the focus as the film goes on. But there's elements of that central plot thread of this whole entire like parade and playing this Spanish music, the whole sequence with that and the drop of the money and stuff like that. It was incredible. It had so much energy. How this film leverages music is really impressive with its music choices in terms of popular songs and Howard Drozen's score, and even the song Highest to Lowest that appears in the film is really powerful and moving. And how this film leverages music and how its main character leverages music is such an impactful thing, being able to explore this other medium through this one, and how's that going to affect things. And this story, I appreciated how deeply connected our protagonist and antagonist wind up being, and that just adds these compelling layers. And you have the police element who don't take what David King has to say with a whole lot of respect or take it seriously, and there's certainly some crazy elements to the story and its ups and downs. It's thrilling. There's train chases and shootouts and just all of these things bubbling up to the surface. But the thematic work is dense and impactful and poignant. The character work, I think, is very interesting. Denzel Washington is electric, larger than life. He brings so much power and presence to this executive at this music studio. And Jeffrey Wright is so great as his friend Paul, and just the emotion, how he carries himself, all of these things, and even how he changes a little bit throughout the film physically. It's just an impactful performance that really stands out and really anchors the film with that emotion, and really pushing, like putting it in Wright's hands as he's trying to push these narratives about their other options. It's impactful. And you have Elfanesh Hadera, who plays Pam, Denzel's wife, and I think she does a really fine job. Denzel Washington in this is electric, and he makes some big choices. He does a lot of his Denzel-isms, but like it all comes together in such an organic and believable character. Aesop Rocky winds up playing a big piece of this whole puzzle, and he's really compelling, and he has a few scenes where he really gets to lean into it. But this film has big, impressive moments and sequences. It's thrilling, and it has that crime thriller element sprinkled throughout. But at the heart of it, this really is about music and our connection with music and the commercialization of music. And just the music of this film is so great. It's so impressive. It just delivers so many layers to every scene that it is injected into and elevates. This film, from the opening, where it's just this camera, Matthew Libatique, who's the cinematographer, just the smoothness of the camera movements as it captures New York. And it's so impactful with the music and the camera work, just really capturing the skyline and the Brooklyn Bridge and all of these elements. It just really pulls things together. And once this film gets going, you are hooked. It is intense, and it'll blow you away, even if it has its flaws. But its overall presentation and execution is just so great that you can get past some of those elements that might not have clicked 100% of the way. But those are my thoughts on Highest to Lowest. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you, as always, for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.